While you are setting up, I have just a quick question if you can ask in parallel, right? What was your motivation like at the age of 10? Usually, students are like playing with their toys mostly, and you started your tech journey. What was the motivation behind that?
So our father used to keep on saying that Microsoft Power Platform was really, really easy, and he also used to come back home with lots of certifications. So we got motivated by that, and our mother also motivated us to get the presentation, get the certification as well.
Interesting.
So can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, so let me just start. Okay, so Assalamu alaikum everyone and welcome to my session. I will be explaining Azure Machine Learning with how to integrate Azure Machine Learning with Power Platform and how they can build amazing experiences together to solve your business problems. So before we do anything else, as you know, like how I was introduced earlier, I am 12 years old and I am certified of Azure AI and Power Platform. And now let's get started with our session. So in the next few minutes, I would like to share how to integrate Power Platform and Azure Machine Learning while learning how to build amazing experiences. I will be using a simple petrol price scenario to demonstrate, and I will also be showing you by what method to make the machine learning model for the price prediction scenario that can be downloaded on Kaggle. A website which lets you download different data sets for various business scenarios. I will also be showing you by what method to make the flow integrated with web APIs, chatbots, and canvas apps using Power Automate. So now that I'm done explaining what I'm going to do, let's get started with looking at the responsible AI principles that Microsoft follows. There are six responsible AI principles that Microsoft Power Platform adheres to. So, AI systems must be developed to treat everyone fairly and avoid affecting similarly situated groups of people in different ways. AI systems must operate reliably, safely, and consistently under normal circumstances and in unexpected conditions. AI systems must comply with privacy laws that require transparency about the collection, use, and storage of data, and mandate that consumers have appropriate controls to choose how their data is used. AI systems must incorporate and address a broad range of diverse human needs, barriers, capabilities, and experiences. AI system behavior and functional components should be understood so people can identify potential performance issues, safety and privacy concerns, biases, exclusionary practices, or unintended outcomes. Those who use AI systems should be honest and forthcoming about why, when, and how they choose to deploy them. The people who design and deploy AI systems must be accountable for how their systems operate. When it comes to Azure, there are many ways you can build machine learning models. There are pre trained models like vision, speech, language, and search. And there are many other tools ranging from data science to productive services that can be used. We have found Azure Machine Learning the most suitable if you're starting just like me. Azure Machine Learning is for individual teams implementing machine learning models in a secure and auditable production environment. Azure Machine Learning services can be accessed by Azure Machine Learning Studio. The process to build a model is also very simple. It requires you to prepare the data, build and train the model, and deploy the model. So now let's get started with the first stage of our presentation, which is to create the machine learning model from a dataset of petrol price. So this is where you can find the petrol price prediction dataset on a website named Kaggle. You can also get different codes too. So first, I'll go to machine learning website and then I'm going to sign in. So what is Azure Machine Learning? Azure Machine Learning helps you to create machine learning experiments and algorithms. And since we have arrived, let's click on the new icon. And then I can proceed to the datasets, and I'm going to upload it from local file. So since I have already uploaded my dataset, I don't need to upload it, but this is where you can upload your dataset. So let's go back to the Azure Machine Learning Studio, and since I have already signed in, it will take me straight to my experiments. So I'm going to go to this button. I'm going to go ahead and click it, and this will take me to the experiments. So since the pop-up bar of new is already open, I'm going to select a blank experiment, and I'm going to change the name to price of petrol. So I'm going to go to datasets now, and I'm going to select the dataset that I uploaded, and I'm going to drag it into the canvas. So now I'm going to select the split data, and I'm going to drop it into canvas again, and then I'm going to connect these two, and then I'm going to add the train or the two class decision tree. So I'm going to choose two class decision for it and decision jungle, since it's a developed and more evolved version of two class decision forest. So I'm just going to drop it here. And now I'm going to add the train model. So I'm going to drop it here, and I'm going to connect one dot to the train model. Oops, let me just do that again. And as you can see, it automatically shows us which one to correctly connect to and which one to not connect it to. So let me just fix that so that there are no overlapping lines. And now I'm going to add a score model. So I'm going to search it in the bar here, and I'm going to drop it here. So one of these dots is going to connect to the train model, and the other one is going to connect to the split data. So now that I'm done with most of this, I'm going to add in the evaluate model. So let me just write that down on the bar. And now let me just drop it here. So it doesn't really matter which one you connect it to as long as it connects to the evaluate model. As you can see, there is an error in the train model. So I'm going to go there, and I'm going to launch a column selector and see which one I want to use to train the model. So I'm going to use let me just select the price column, and now that I've selected it, let's go and train the model, run the model. Notice how easy and simple Azure ML experience is. You can visually build really complex machine learning. So it's working really well. And before you get worried about how we ended up choosing a two-class decision tree algorithm, let me share a secret. Microsoft has published a machine learning cheat sheet that is really helpful and is a very handy resource. So now that you know how to choose your algorithm, let's get back to our model preparation. So now let's go to evaluate model and right click so that we can see the evaluation results. This will represent the key information about the success of our chosen algorithm. The purpose of this session is not to explain these accuracy indicators, but as you can see, our chosen algorithm is suitable. So now that our machine learning experiment is ready, I want to be able to use it in, in the web service. So to do that, I will go ahead and deploy my petrol price model. So now I'm going to go ahead and run this so that I can deploy my model. And now I'm going to deploy the model so that I can get the page and the API key to get the details in Power Automate. So as you can see, there is a request and response API help page, and this is where I will be getting all the details. Now that we are ready with our model and endpoint API to use this model real time, I want to share in the real world where these steps are in a journey from data to consumption. So it all starts from getting the data. You can get the data from your IoT devices, unstructured data from your users, semi-structured data, which could be codes or scripts, and from your partners, you could get data from enterprise solutions, or you could get the data from Explore data and Azure Data Cosmos. Then it gets ingested, and then it goes to get stored in the Azure Data Lake. Then it finally goes to be used in Azure ML Studio. Then it will be used in Power Apps and Power Automate. Or it could go to the Azure Kubernetes service, and then it can be used in Power BI. So now that I'm done explaining these steps, let's get back to making the virtual agent. So now that the web service is created, I'll be showing you by what method to connect or integrate the machine learning algorithm with the chatbot. Since most of this stuff is the same for the app, I will not be showing you by how to make the app. But not to worry, I'll be showing you my app and how it works. So let's get started. But before that, I want to tell you that Azure ML is not the only way you can make and you can use AI in your apps and flows. You can also use AI Builder, which is available in Power Apps and Power Automate. So AI Builder can be used to work faster and more quickly since there are pre-built models available, and you don't need to make the models yourself. Azure Machine Learning can be used to make your models more personal and based on your own data. And as you can see, there's a link here. I will also paste this in the chat so that everybody can see it. But this link is really helpful and it gives you a full overview on AI Builder. So now let's start with the second point of my presentation, creating the chatbot. So I am in my Power Virtual Agents web and I have already signed in. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new topic. Notice how you can open it in Bot Framework, or if you want to detail it, or just simply create it from blank. I have created my one from blank, as you can see in the list, and I have also entered the trigger phrases, which trigger the topic to start and launch into conversation. Since it requires 5 phrases, I have entered 5. There's a button there for authorizing Canvas, and I can go there to connect my flow and ask the right questions. Since I have already created the topic, I'm going to start adding the right questions, like what is the current date, or what is the current petrol price. So first of all, I'm going to add in what is the current date. And since I want to get the user's entire response, I'm going to choose user entire response and choose a and change it to vdate. So this will save the response as vdate. So let me just cancel that. And now I'm going to add in another question. This question will be, what is the current petrol price? Oops, let me just type that again. So notice how you can choose many different options, but I'm going to be choosing user's entire response since I want to save it and then so that it can be later used in the flow. So I'm going to put in the price, and now I'm going to cancel it. So in the next step, I'm going to add an action, And since I don't have any readily available flow, I'm going to choose create a flow. And this will take me to my Power Automate environment. I'm now in Power Automate Cloud Flow where request and response steps are already defined. Now we have reached the third and most important point of them all, creating the flow that connects the model with the chatbot. So let's not wait any longer and let's get to it. So let's add the steps here. And first I'm going to add a variable to store the date and I'm going to call it vmonth. So I'm going to choose initialize variable and I'm going to write vmonth here. I'm also going to copy this and paste it at the top so that it's easier to find out that this is the variable. I'm going to choose string, and for the value I'm going to add another action which is going to be add to time. I'm not going to use the one from the flow, from the chatbot. So I'm going to choose the current date as base time using the UTC now expression and 30 as input for interval and days as unit. So now let's set the vmonth variable to this calculated date. I'm going to go down and as you can see in the add to time, there is the calculated time. So next step is to define a petrol price variable. I'm going to add an initialize variable again and I'm going to name this vpetrol price. So notice that I'm going to use string rather than number. Since for JSON it is more simpler. So for the initial value, I'm going to first, oh wait, let me just rename this. And now I'm going to go to the response and I'm going to go and add in price here. So that I can get this from Power Virtual Agents. So now in the initial value, I'm going to go down and I'm going to select price. So now I'll get the input and store it in this variable. So let's add one more variable as score label. The return price will be saved in this variable. So I'm going to name it vScore label. And I'm going to choose a type as string again, like I did for the others. You can also choose many others, but I'm going to use JSON in the HTTP connector, so I'm using string. And since it's an output parameter, I'm not going to put in any value. So now we're going to use the web services which were prepared by me. And I'm going to choose HTTP. And I'm going to go back to the documentation and I'm going to see all these details and I'm going to add them in. So it said post as method and it gave us the URI here. So I'm going to copy it and I'm going to go back to the flow and paste it here. Let me just clear that space over there. And in the headers, I'm going to add in authorization and pair. So I'm going to add it in. I'm going to start typing authorization out. And then over here, I'm going to type in bearer. But over here is where the API key comes in. So I'm going to go back to the web service page and I'm going to copy the API key. So I'm going to paste it after bearer. And in the next key, I'm going to add in content type. And the type is JSON, so I'm going to put in application/JSON. So now I'm going to go back to the presentation to the documentation, and I'm going to copy the sample request. So let me just finish copying it. Let me just try again. And now I'm going to go back to the flow, and I'm going to paste it in the body. So it gives us an extra record, but I don't need that, so I'm going to delete it. And instead of 0, I'm going to add here the petrol price. And at the top, I'm going to add in the month. So the next step is to use the parse JSON action to parse the response we're going to get from HTTP. And again, for simplicity, I'm going to go to the sample documentation and copy the response from the to get the sample payload. So over here, I'm going to put in the body. And first, I'm going to copy the sample sample response. And I hope you are noticing that most of the information is readily available, and we just need to know which actions we need to use in the flow to use them. So I'm going to put generate from sample, and I'm also going to delete the second record here. I'm going to click done, and as you can see, Power Automate has automatically generated a sample payload for us. So now we need to get the value of our predicted price in the variable. And for that, we're going to retrieve the results using this a one-line script. So I'm going to first use set variable, and I'm going to select that, and I'm going to choose the variable score label. And for the value, I'm going to go to expression, and I'm going to paste this formula here. So I got this formula from the parse JSON action. And now I'm going to add another action, since for the score probability which I added earlier which is the probability of how much the increase is going to happen. I'm going to add it again here again, and for the variable value, I'm going to add in the same expression. I'm just going to change the 2 to 3. So I'm going to click OK, and now a variable is created. So the final step is to pass these two variables back to Power BI. And this we will do by defining the outputs in the return to PBA action. So I'm going to write down score label, and now I'm going to select the variable from the dynamic content. So I'm going to do the same for score probability, and I'm going to add in the score probability variable. So now this marks the completion of all the things we need to do to make our flow connected with the web services. Let's continue on PVA Studio to get the results. And we're back to Power Virtual Agents, and we will again do the same call in action. And I'm going to choose a flow that I have just built, and I'm going to pass the current price that I have received in the Power Virtual Agents chat. So now I'm going to add a message with output. And again, for simplicity, I'm only using the score label that is the predicted price in the next 30 days. So let's test the topic and see if this works. So I'm going to copy one of the triggers here, and I'm going to paste it in the bot. So I'm going to pass a random date, say 29th of September 2021, and I'm going to pass in a random petrol price too. It's like 3.11. And as you can see, it has automatically told us how much the price will increase by in the next 30 days. And it's using the flow to get this. Similar to Power Virtual Agents, we can create another flow with the same actions but with triggers for Power Apps. We can also take the date as input from the user as well as getting a nice date control in Power Apps. The rest of the flow will remain the same. So now we have come to the last stage of my presentation where I will be showing you how I have used a machine learning model in Power Apps. So I'm going to show you where I've used the flow in Power Apps. So I'm using date control to get the current date, and I'm also using an input so that I can get the price. And now, as you can see, on the predict button, I have connected the flow. And let me just make the bar a bit bigger so that you can see the whole formula. And I have connected my flow to this button so that it runs a flow every time I press it. So now let's see the experience in Power Apps, and let's type it in. So as you can see, along with the price increase, it also shows the probability of this increase happening in the future. So this brings me to the end of my session, and I really hope you enjoyed it. Here is a QR code to me and Zara's LinkedIn profile, and you can ask me in the chat if there are any questions about my presentation. I also wanted to say thank you for inviting me and thank you for attending my session. And it was a pleasure to share my knowledge with you all, and I hope you have a good day.
Thank you so much, Zenubia. While clicking your session, I was just amazed. Uh, I have been into research related to the machine learning and deep learning. And once you are doing the research, I mean, it's typically a Python coding, and we have to write Python script. So I was just thinking that how Microsoft Azure had made it easy to use these models, and I was like, if I would have awareness about this, so I must have used Azure instead of writing those boring scripts, which are really hard to debug as well once they are failed. So, is there any questions?
Yeah, and it's also getting way more easier too.
Hmm. Are there any questions from audience? Okay, we have one.
Yeah.
I guess that was a guy named Raza, right? Raza, can you unmute yourself? You can type your in chat. Okay.